There are two books which have influenced me considerably. They are one, The Origin of Family, Private Property and the State by Friedrich Engels, the man who wrote that Das Kapital along with Karl Marx. And the second book is The Third Wave by Alvin Toffler. Now, both these works have very little to do with politics. They are mostly concerned about the economics or the dynamics of production and distribution of wealth, especially the production and distribution of foodstuff, and how they influence our sexual, social, moral, and political environment and behavior. They also explain the roles played by economic force in doing what we do. Why do we marry? How and when did prostitution come into the picture? Why do divorce rates go up? Why did we have joint families? If all humans are created equal, then what led to the institution of slavery, the serf system, the caste system in India, the subjugation of women, and other forms of social inequality and differentiation? Why and how did these forms of inequality end? How, when, and why did so many things? How democracy and the rule of law was established? Why do we have democracy, and so on and so forth? In his bestseller, The Third Wave, Alvin Toffler explains how human history can be divided into three stages, which he compared to three waves in the ocean. Thus, human history was divided into the agricultural wave, the industrial wave, and the digital wave, which we are going through at the moment. Perhaps the word wave is too tame a word to describe these stages in human development. Instead, the word tsunami might explain better the impact these three ways of production of food or energy had on the human ways of life and in managing our societies. Before we go into the study of these tsunamis, we will first explore the human way of life in our natural state before these tsunamis hit us in their full strength. In this stage of human history or prehistory, we wander around like animals in cohesive nomadic groups of 20 or more in accordance with the fertility or the availability of food in the environment where we lived. Members of the society helped each other in finding food, in taking care of each other in illness and old age, as well as in warning each other of dangers and protecting each other's backs. Then about 2.5 million years ago, we began to use various tools made of wood, creepers, bone, stone, and so forth. However, only the remnants of the stone tools of that age have survived to this age, and so we call this stage of human history the Stone Age. Though tools made of wood, creepers, and bones must have accounted for more tools than tools made of stone. These tools enabled us to access more forms of food such as bone marrow and hard nuts, which are not easily accessible to any other animal. Then about 1.7 to 2 million years ago, we learned how to make fire. This technology had a considerable impact on the way we lived, though we still remained nomadic for the most part, except for those living near or on the river banks and other environments which provided plentiful supply of food and energy. However, in economic terms, it was a gathering or a scavenging society in that they did not in any way interfere with the productive forces of nature. There was no such thing as marriage. Instead, they lived in matrilineal as well as matriarchal promiscuous societies in which kinship relationship revolving around the mother were paramount. Because of the promiscuity, no one knew who his or her biological father was. So the term father was rarely used and it had no relevance also. Instead, apart from the mother, everyone was an uncle or an aunt or a son or a daughter or a cousin or a combination of all these. Fathers had sexual intercourses with their daughters and half brothers with their half sisters. These systems seem to have carried on to the historical times, and so we have Kronos, the Titan, marrying his sister Rhea. Then there was Jupiter marrying his sister Hera. Then we have Cleopatra. You all must have heard of Cleopatra. She married two of his brothers. One was Ptolemy III and the second was Ptolemy IV. After Ptolemy III died, she married Ptolemy IV. Then in the Bible we have the story of Abraham, who married his half-sister Sarah and so forth. Like other animals, our Stone Age ancestors who lived a hand-to-mouth existence, and we did not have any private properties to speak of. This was the most egalitarian form of human social existence. We have never had such equality either after that in any of the ages that came after that. The phrase Stone Age covers a massive amount of time of about say 3.3 million years to only a few thousand years ago in the civilized parts of the present world and to just a few decades ago in a few remote parts of the world. There are people like the inhabitants of the Sentinelese Islands in the Andamans of India, where people still live. They have not they don't have the know-how how to make fire even now. Accordingly, the term Stone Age covers several different species of humans such as Neanderthals, the Denisovans, and other human species. The salient characteristics which separated Stone Age humans from their from other animals are described are as follows. 1. Better communication and better social cohesion and cooperation, which enabled humans to take on much bigger and stronger animals. Then we made use of tools, such as tools made of wood, bones and stones. They also made traps from wood and creepers as well as blowpipes and other weapons from materials found in nature. The third characteristic was use of vines and creepers to weave baskets and other utensils of daily use. Then the Stone Age ancestors used skins and leaves to make clothes and containers for everyday life. They also made homes and protected themselves from the elements as well as from wild animals by fencing. Stone Age societies made extensive use of fire for cooking as well as for other purposes such as in warfare. They acquired sailing technology to reach the most remote islands on earth about 2000 years ago. Then some 50,000 or more years ago, very important thing happened. Our ancestors turned to arts. They began to make ornaments, chains and all kinds of body wear from beads, bones, shells, stones and other resources in their environment. They also took to other forms of arts such as cave drawings, singing and dancing and telling outlandish stories which later evolved into myths, epics, legends and so forth. Another of the characteristics of the Stone Age was that man took to religion such as animism, totemism, ancestor worship and solemn burials. Shaman, witches, oracles and other forms of priesthood appear around the same time. Kipling said that prostitution is the oldest profession in the world. But according to available evidence, there were witches, doctors, shaman, oracles and others of that kind belonging to the priestly class and they lived at least 50,000 years before marriage, and its flip side, prostitution. So, in all probability, the priesthood or a priestcraft, we can say, is the oldest profession in the world. In this Stone Age, each society had its repository of memorized knowledge, culture, and technology, which enabled them to hunt, gather, and scavenge more efficiently, as well as to protect themselves from the vagaries of nature and from other animals and hostile tribes. This knowledge increased with age and experience. Consequently, the elders were respected and obeyed for their useful knowledge of survival and survival techniques. As for gender roles, women gathered or scavenged for food around their camps, whereas men probably operated further afield. Women wielded considerable power in these matrilineal societies, whereas men lived on the fringes like male elephants, lions, and other social animals do even now. This was a transparent society, as transparent as can be imagined. Everyone knew each other's likes, dislikes, and other characteristics to a degree totally aligned to modern societies in which we are taken by surprise by the words and actions of our most intimate relations, such as spouses and children. Like other social animals, human communities too were reluctant to accept members of from other communities, and so ostracism was a punishment worse than death. Casting people out of the tribe was it was the biggest punishment possible. Postmodernists and environmentalists and romantics paint this age as peaceful, idyllic, and European and utopian. Nothing could be further from the truth. Many ancient skeletons which anthropologists have unearthed have spears and arrows embedded in them. Many of the animals of the American continent, such as elephants and horses, as well as many exotic flora and fauna in Australia, went extinct almost as soon as man reached there, those shores of America and Australia. And similarly, Easter Island became arid in the wake of humans landing there. In addition, many other human species, such as the Neanderthals and the Denisovans, disappeared, mainly due to human violence. As for peace and order in society, there was strict observation of codes within the society to keep the group as one smooth operating unit. They also had to help each other to take care of the young, and so that the group as a whole stood a better chance of survival. Others who were not in any way related to the group were looked on with suspicion. Those who were not with us were against us. And so there was considerable violence. There were two sets of rules. One set of rules for your own kin group and another set of rules for strangers. This kind of cohesive and transparent societies can still be found on the small and remote islets and atolls of the world, where humans have to depend on each other for their very existence. This kind of society is carried on for hundreds of thousands of years, and then we took to agriculture, the first tsunami. The stationary Stone Age populations who lived near rivers and other fertile environments started helping the forces of nature in producing more food, and this was the origin of the first economic tsunami, which we call the agricultural revolution. In the next presentation, we will see how the agricultural and pastoral ways of life or the first tsunami shaped our societies and its institutions, such as marriage and families, states, and all these kinds of things. Thank you for listening to me. I am from India, and as far as I am concerned, English is an acquired language. So there are limitations in my presenting this idea in English. So please, any mistakes in this presentation may please be overlooked. Please subscribe to my channel. Thank you.